Elliot here. Thanks so much for joining me for this review of 100 nights in my tent. And if you follow me, you probably know what my tent is, but it is the Zpacks Triplex DCF tent. And we should probably start back a little bit when I first got it. I have not had luck, being that I'm tall, 6'3", with tents. And between not fitting right and materials, notwithstanding weather and wind and rain, things like that. So when I attempted my Thru-Hike in 19, I had a steel nylon tent and it did nothing but absorb water. Everybody I saw in DCF tents was bone dry inside when they woke up every day, and I just swore from then on I would not do steel nylon again. It's a personal thing. Some people don't have problems with it, but I have. So in 2020, I decided to get the Ultraplex. It was re-released and I was super excited. I mean, heck, Darwin uses it, right? So I got to use it. No, so I'm not that, except for he's about 6'1", so he's close to as tall as me, and liked it. And I have, you guys know, I've been going lighter and more refined and smaller. So I got the Ultraplex, and honestly, for me, greatly disliked it. And I had some problems with it too. The tent really didn't perform well. I did the long trail in Vermont, which is walking from the Massachusetts-Vermont border north up to the Canadian border. We went northbound, and it's 273 miles of tough trail and really rough weather. And I had problems with the line locks not holding. You know, Zpacks was pretty responsive, sent me a different kind of line. I relined my whole tent, and those gave way too. And to be honest with you, even though I'm not crazy tall, I was claustrophobic in that tent. I don't mean literally. I mean, I was just in it like a coffin. I couldn't put my gear around me. I had to put my pack on the outside with half of my gear under the vestibule, and honestly, I just didn't like it. Also, with one door, I didn't like that there was no breeze, and it got very humid there, and it got very buggy. So a lot of times we got forced into our tents, but I only had one door. I couldn't get a breeze going in my tent. PT who I hiked with had a duplex and had no problems with that. So I just decided that the Ultraplex for me personally, besides having the problems, wasn't the tent for me. So they were gracious enough, after me trying it long enough, to return it and apply it towards my new Triplex tent. So I'm not great at remembering all my trips because I do so many short and long, but what did these 100 nights consist of? Well, I got it after, like I said, the long trail in June of 2020, and in July I'm still trying to complete the PCT in chunks now, sections every year, and I started Ashland, Oregon, which is just across the California border. I was going to do a larger section than I did, but I did about almost 300 miles, so I did a bunch of nights in there. This last year in 2020, I did from Kennedy Meadows south, north through the Sierras, and would have done, again, I don't know, 600 miles, but between the Dixie fires and them closing all the national forests while I was in the forest, I had to get out after about 250 miles. So the last 2 years has made it a little bit shorter, but I've also done the Trans-Catalina Trail. As you guys know, tons and tons of overnighters and 2- and 3-nighters, so that's where all those 100 nights come from. All right, before I go over my impressions, let's go over the specs, the measurements, and just the size of this tent. So I am going to read some of this because there's too many specs to memorize, but it's, again, the Zpacks Triplex tent is $799, so not cheap. 3-person tent. It's DCF, which is Dyneema Humid Fiber, which is a synthetic, pretty much waterproof material. I got the spruce green color. If you look on their site, they have a bunch of different colors. They added colors since I got mine, but they all have a different denier or thickness. So some make your tent overall, it's just a fraction of an ounce, but it'll make your tent lighter or heavier depending on which one you pick. But if you get the heavier, it's a little bit tougher and more durable. So I got the green, which is on the more durable scale. So this is interesting. They say on the site for my color and size tent is 24.4 ounces. I don't know if my scale is correct, but it was 25.3. So about an ounce heavier, but not much. All right, so let's go over the interior dimensions. The floor width is 60 inches wide by 7.5 feet or 90 inches long. The bathtub height is 8 inches, which is that gray tub you see on the side that keeps the rain out. And the zippered door height, the entry for the door, is 36 inches high, and the peak height, which is the highest point in the center, where you would sit up like where my head is 48 inches. The packed up dimensions in its sack is 8 inches by 13 inches. And this tent can take 8 to 12 stakes. I happen to use 8 stakes, and I will show you how I do that. Also, quickly, there's a few other things that go with this tent. I have a flat ground sheet by Zpacks also that costs $120. It's not cheap. It's 4.3 ounces. It's also DCF, and it can be used for, why I like it too is it protects my tent, but it also keeps it clean. But I could use this, I haven't yet, but in the desert, maybe use it for shade if I have to get out of the sun, or especially I consider maybe using it if it starts raining and I can maybe tie it up and then get underneath it if I have to get out of a storm, something like that, if I don't have trees. So it could be multi-use, the flat ground sheet. It is 58 by 88 inches, so the width and the length are 2 inches shorter than the bottom of the tent, and that's how you want it. If you buy one of these, or even if you use Tyvek, I made that mistake my very first time using a borrowed tent. My Tyvek hung out way underneath the tent on all sides, and it poured rain. What happens is it just gets on, it flows off your tent, on the ground sheet, and underneath you. And I had a lake in my tent and underneath. So those are the learning pains and learning curves you get when you're new. But so you always want your ground sheet, whether you purchase one or you want to cut some Tyvek up or a piece of plastic, make sure it's smaller than the bottom of your tent. All right, lastly, my stakes. I have actually 3 types. I have 6 Easton 8-inch long nano stakes, very light, very strong. I actually meant to buy them 6 inches, but they came this way, and so it was kind of my mistake. But they're so light, it doesn't make a big difference. And actually in soft sand, having the longer stakes really helps my 4 corners. These are for the 4 corners and the 2 vestibules, so the weight-bearing stakes, I actually don't mind having them longer, and they go in the ground deeper and are much more stable, especially in wind. I also have 3 titanium shepherd hooks. That's I really only need 2, so 1 is extra. I use 1 for the head and the foot, which I'll show you too. And lastly, I have 5 aluminum ground sheet stakes that I made by hand. I'll put the video I made, it's only like 2 minutes long, on how to make them if you want to save money. I used to use rocks on the corner of my ground sheet, but sometimes that didn't work, or I couldn't find rocks if I was in certain places. So they weigh literally, I think all 4 of them together are not even, I think they're like 1/10 of an ounce. So check out the video that I did below in the description box if you want to learn how to make your own stakes. They're not really big, strong ones for weight bearing things, but for a ground sheet that your tent's going to be on top of, it's perfect. And they take up no room, and they're super light. But they add up to 3.85 ounces. So all totaled, they say this ground sheet weighs 4.3 ounces, but when I weighed it plus the very light, weighs 1/10 of an ounce Zpacks bag that I used to put the ground sheet in, I'll tell you why in a minute, it came to 5.9 ounces, so not 4.3, so just a fraction more. I'm not sure why. I always wonder if manufacturers guess low just to make it sound better, but it seems like everything I have so far is weighing heavier than what they say it's going to weigh. I use the DCF bag. I'm very anti-bag. A lot of the stuff I put in my pack when it comes to like my sleeping pad and my quilt don't have bags. I stuff it in there. But the ground sheet very often is very wet or very muddy, and I don't want to fold it up, and I keep it on the outside pouch of my pack, so I don't want to just throw it in there and get everything filthy and dirty and muddy. So I keep it in the DCF bag, and if it is gross in the middle of the day, I'll do a yard sale and dry it out like I do my tent sometimes if there's condensation or moisture or mud. So that's why I put it in a bag for that. All right, guys, so what are my impressions? Well, coming from a person who has been thoroughly unsatisfied with just about every tent I've tried so far, I've liked pieces and parts of them, but I've never found a tent that I've liked in every situation so far and in every scenario, and I love my triplex. I love it, and it seems crazy because you wouldn't think of one person who's only 6'3". I'm not like in the NBA 6'10". I'm only 6'3", but it's really hard to find a good tent. I would have rather use the duplex, which is a 2-person tent. It's smaller and lighter fractionally than my tent, but when I got to my friends, it's like I literally barely fit from head to toe in it, and if I'm any slope, then I start sliding and I start hitting, and then, you know, when you raise yourself up on an air mattress and you have a quilt, your quilt's puffy like this, well, when the slope comes up, now you're hitting by your feet and your head, and so I would get too much condensation. So the kind of result of this is the triplex, and I'm going to give Dave a shout out. He has one, and he's the one who, if you watch my videos, did from Hearts Pass when we got up to the northern terminus together. He hiked that section with me and got me to the trail, and was a trail angel and a wonderful friend. But he had one, and we joked because I made fun of him a lot about how because he's much shorter than me, and he has a giant palace, but he really has it because he goes with his wife on trips and they need the room. So he's the one that suggested it, so thank you, Dave. And I really love it. Now, I had suggested to Zpacks for a long time, they need to come out, because the duplex is by far their biggest seller, and it fits most people, but they need to make a long one. I didn't need any wider, I just needed longer. So sure enough, they came out with the duplex XL, and I almost bought it, but I'm so happy with this, and they're not cheap. Like I said, this is $799, and when I looked, I think the duplex XL is close to that price, or like $750, I think. But when you look at the actual square inches in the footprint size and everything, I'd literally only be saving, like, I don't even know. Honestly, I looked one time, but I think maybe an ounce, and the thing would only be a fraction smaller, so it doesn't make a big, it's not worth spending another $800 for a tent that's going to be just as big. So I've been nothing but happy with this. If I bring somebody else along, I have room for them, if it's my son or a friend or something. So I have room. I love that it doesn't take up a lot of space. I love how light it is. I always put it on the top of my pack, so when I get to camp, I take it out and set it up. I love the color, believe it or not. I got green. I like bright colors, so I like the blue, but I like the green because in case I have to stealth camp, and I wanted to be able to kind of hide in trees and not stand out, have some privacy if I wanted. So the green for me, of the colors they have, kind of fits that. They have a tan, more opaque one, but you can almost see right through it, so there's really no privacy. And this is, like I said, is on the thicker grade, so it gives you a little more wear and tear. So the only thing, honestly, that I don't really like, and it has nothing to do with Zpacks, has nothing to do with the tent or anything, is actually the physical size of it. And it has nothing to do with Zpacks. Like I said, it could be any manufacturer. A 3-person tent is large, and then when you have the tie-outs that express from there, that's a very large area. So when you're on trail and you're trying to find, like in the Sierras or on the PCT, there's usually some big spaces, but sometimes there's only a space for 1 or 2 very small tents, and they have to have small footprints. So sometimes that makes it very hard to find a spot to actually not only have room for your tent, but that the whole spot is level. Sometimes it's level for a 1 or 2 man tent, but not for 3. There's roots or bumps. But that's my only complaint, but it has nothing to do with the tent. Besides that, I'm absolutely in love with it. So this video was made in March of 2022, and so far I've loved it. I've had it almost 2 years and absolutely love it. You know, I'm still planning on getting back on the PCT this year if I can get the time off at work. So it's coming with me. It comes with me everywhere pretty much. But like I said, I thought nothing but thumbs up with this tent. I love it. Tell me if you have one and what you think. And I think more people have duplexes than triplexes by far. But if you don't, what tent you have and why. But DCF is definitely taking over most of the manufacturers. It just makes sense in a lot of ways. The only negative is it's not cheap. It's actually quite expensive. I feel too expensive for what you're getting, but after all the bad experiences I had, it was definitely, I value the quality and the materials to stay dry in all kinds of conditions, and it's very light. I saved, it's probably half the weight of my old tent, so there's nothing but good things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry if it's too long, a lot of rambling, but there's a lot of data and numbers, but I just love this tent and wanted to share with you in case you're looking for a bigger tent. And as usual, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing and liking and hitting that notification bell if you'd like to be notified every time I post a new video. All those things are free, so it helps the channel out a lot if you like this kind of content. And I love comments, like I said, so leave me a comment. And there's ways to also support the channel if you'd like. Look down in the description box. And I think that's all I got. I gotta go. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.